Hey again, everybody, and thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Fantasy Football 321. I'm your host, Jared Morris. We're through 4 weeks, and as is inevitable every year, there are a bevy of surprises and disappointments littered across the fantasy football landscape. Today, I'm going to tell you about 3 guys who are underperforming what we expected, but the reasons why I think they're going to get it turned around and start providing the value that we expected of them. And on the flip side, I'm going to talk to you about 2 guys whose numbers are a bit over their head right now, and I don't think that they'll continue. And plus, I'll give you my one piece of advice. So let's talk about the 3 guys that I think are going to improve, and let's start in Baltimore with quarterback Joe Flacco. He's struggled. They've played a tough schedule, and Flacco has thrown 5 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. Obviously not great production. But you got to understand, he's played the Jets, he's played Cincinnati, and he's played Baltimore. Those teams have all given up a passer rating against of 77 or less. In the one game that Flacco played against a not-so-good pass defense, Cleveland Browns, he had 3 touchdowns and played very, very well. So if you look at Flacco's upcoming schedule, obviously he's not going to be facing those elite pass defenses every week. And so I think with the addition of Anquan Boldin, with Ray Rice getting healthy, with Flacco getting some rapport with TJ Houshmandzadeh, you can expect the Baltimore passing offense to improve and for Flacco's numbers to improve. Plus, understand this. Most fantasy football playoffs take place weeks 14, 15, and 16. Here's who Flacco plays those weeks: the Houston Texans, the New Orleans Saints, and the Cleveland Browns. And we know how bad New Orleans and Cleveland have been, and New Orleans has given up a passer rating of 88 or greater as well. So Flacco's a guy, especially if you're looking towards the playoffs. If you have a good starter, Flacco can be a solid backup that you play based on the matchups. But then I tell you what, in the playoffs, he may be a guy that you want to start because those are some really good matchups. Now, at running back, let's head south to Miami. And let's talk about Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams. The Dolphins, in their first 2 games, they won them, and they ran the ball 54 times combined with Brown and Williams. The Fins are 0-2 in their last 2 games, and they've only given Brown and Williams 37 carries total. And we saw in that New England game, when they rely on Chad Henne, he's prone to really poor decisions and bad interceptions. That leads me to believe that the Dolphins are going to go back to the run. Surely they've seen these stats. They know that their best chance to win and get back in the AFC East race is on the backs of Brown and Williams, not on the arm of Chad Henne. Because here's the thing. Brown and Williams are both averaging more than 4 yards a carry. So it's not like they're not playing well. They're just not getting the opportunities. And just like Flacco is set up to do very nicely during the playoffs, consider these matchups for Brown and Williams: Oakland, Cleveland, the Jets, Buffalo, and Detroit. That's weeks 12 through 16. 4 out of those 5, obviously taking the Jets out of there, 4 out of those 5 are really, really good matchups. So again, neither one of these guys is in the top 25 right now. I think there's a chance they both could end up there. Target them and see if you can find their owners frustrated and maybe willing to give you a discount on acquiring Ronnie Brown or Ricky Williams. Similarly with Steve Smith. This guy not even in the top 30 right now, and I know a lot of his owners are frustrated because I hear from them every week on the site. People want to sit Steve Smith, and I consistently tell you to play him. And the reason why is he's consistent. You know, he's not going to go out and have that great 10-catch, 150-yard, 2-touchdown game. But he is going to go out and get you 6, 7, 8 catches, 60, 70, 80 yards, the occasional touchdown. Those are the numbers you need from a number 3 wide receiver, even a number 2 wide receiver. Because, to use a football term, they move the chains. I mean, they give you those solid 8 to 10 points that you need. And consider with Smith, last year he did much, much better against the NFC East opponents than he did against non-divisional opponents. He averaged 7 catches and a little over 84 yards against the Cowboys, Redskins, and Eagles, and he averaged 6.5 catches and only about 70 yards against the non-divisional opponents. Well, the Giants haven't played any of their divisional games yet. So out of their next 12 games, Smith has 6 against the teams that he plays the best against. So he's a guy, if you need wide receiver help and if Steve Smith's owner is frustrated, see what you can get because you may be able to get better value than what you have to give up. Now on the flip side, let's talk about 2 guys that are doing better than what we would have expected of them. And the first one is LaDainian Tomlinson. And look, I'm happy for the guy. He's in the top 10 right now in terms of fantasy points by running backs. He's playing great. He looks great. But the reality is that the Jets have played run defenses that are all 20th or worse. So it's not like Tomlinson's been going up against real great run defenses. But he's going to start facing some much better ones. And if you look down the line, weeks 15 and 16, where you need to count on him in the championship, if your team makes the playoffs, they've got the Steelers and they've got the Bears, 2 very good run defenses, so you'd certainly have to temper your expectations then. I think there's a chance LT could finish in the top 20, maybe the top 25 this year. Okay? But he is, He is aging. I don't think they're going to be able to give him the same number of carries that they've given him through the first 4 games for the rest of the season, and he has name value. So while I think he can be an every week starter for you, and you don't want to just give him away, dangle him. Because if someone thinks that LT is back and he's the LT of old, they may give up top 10 value, whereas LT may only really be a top 20 running back. He's just done very well in a small sample size. Same thing is true with Terrell Owens. The guy blew up last week against Cleveland, but we just mentioned how Cleveland doesn't have a very good pass defense, right? So T.O. goes crazy, has 10 catches, 200 and some yards, whatever he ended up doing. And now it skews all of his numbers because for the first 3 weeks, T.O. did nothing. But if you look at his cumulative stats, and if people have last week's game fresh in their mind, they may overvalue T.O. And consider, last year he did this with Buffalo. He had 1 game where he had 9 catches, 150 plus yards, scored a touchdown. In no other game did he have more than 5 catches or 90 yards. Add that to the fact that Carson Palmer is basically Trent Dilfer, and the Cincinnati passing game isn't that good, and T.O. is not going to come anywhere close to what he did in week 4. He's a good guy. See if someone's willing to pay top 10, top 15 wide receiver value for him, because if they are, get rid of him and get something in return that's actually going to give you more consistent dividends throughout the rest of the season. Okay, now it's time for my one piece of advice. And if you watched last week's show, it's going to sound redundant, but I don't care. It's important. Play your stars. The guys that you drafted in the first round, the second round, the third round, even the fourth round, play them. Okay, if you're a Calvin Johnson owner or a Maurice Jones-Drew owner, you will agree with this. If you played your guys last week. If you didn't, you saw them blow up and provide the value that you were expecting, but they did it on your bench. Look, some guys start out a little bit slowly. Some guys have their bad games at the start of the year. Some guys just run into a little bit of a tough stretch. Stars are stars for a reason, right? So keep them in your lineup. Same thing with D'Angelo Williams last week. So for people that own Randy Moss, for people that own Ray Rice, I know that they've struggled a little bit. Heck, Moss didn't even have a catch last week. Rice has struggled to get going. Keep them in your lineups because they will pay off eventually. All right? It's not time to panic yet. If we start getting into week 6 and 7 and 8 and these guys are still not performing at all, maybe we'll talk. For now, play your stars, keep them in the lineup. It's going to help you much, much more than it's ever going to hurt you. All right. That is our Week 5 episode of Fantasy Football 321, everybody. Check out MSF Fantasy Sports for the start sit, our weekly rankings, which I will update again on Friday, and then join us Sunday morning for our live chat. Any questions that you have, we'll be there to answer. Once again, our only goal is to help you win, so let's go out and do it.